Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambam, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryandam, Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sakhana Vavadu, Sakhana Bhunaktu, Sakapiriam Karavavake, Tejasvina Vadida Mustamavat Vishavake. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yogena Chittasya Patena Vacha, Malam Sarirasya Chavaityakena, Yopa Karottam Pravaram Muninam, Patanjali Pranjali Manatosmi. Good morning. So hopefully today we will complete the Patanjali Yoga Sutra chapter 2. We finished it in the last class, in fact, but it hasn't got a proper conclusion to the Ashtanga Yoga that we discussed, because Patanjali takes them into the subsequent chapter for a good reason. So what I thought I will do today is to give you a very quick summary of what we did in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra chapter 1 and chapter 2. We will not dwell any deeper, but just to kindle your memory, so that when you have time, when you have to go back and reread it again, you have some motivation to do. Then we complete the Ashtanga Yoga, take the 3, 4, maybe the 5 sutras of the chapter 3 to complete the Ashtanga Yoga, and we conclude that. So if you remember, why did we come to the Patanjali Yoga Sutra study from where we were? Is that because when one seeks the guidance of Vedanta, generally that person has a fortune of suffering through the Tapatraya. Tapam means anxiety, grief, a compelling desire to see a resolution to issues. Traya means 3 times, in your life, in your external life, Adhyatmika, Adidautika, Adibautika. So we go and seek for some guidance. Even if you don't have such compelling need, when you have a quest for an intellectual pursuit, you ask serious question about the existence of everything, and you go to Vedanta. But let's take a common denominator. We seek guidance to live happily. That's the reason we went to Vedanta. And contrary to general perception that Vedanta means renunciation and giving away life, world is illusion, Maya. No, Vedanta said, Bhoga Ayadanam. Your life is Bhoga. Enjoy life. If you're enjoying life, you don't need Vedanta. Enjoy life. Enjoyment means to be happy. That's the reason why many of us don't go to Vedanta. Because you enjoy life. But then the time comes, the enjoyment that we have doesn't stay. The Bhoga doesn't stay. The Bhoga becomes Roga. Sukham becomes Dukkham. So therefore, we started realizing the Bhoga that we are doing, enjoying, is not adequate. Then Vedanta says, well, it's because the Bhoga, to be happy, to be joyful, you must have the Bodha. Bodha means the knowledge. You must have the knowledge to know that you can be happy, you are happy, you can never be happy. So therefore Vedanta started giving a different definition of what you're looking for. The happiness is also called freedom, abhayam, fearlessness, moksham, mukti. So we start learning new things. Okay, there's a liberation there, moksham there. Then we ask the Vedantic teacher, what is this Bodha? What is this knowledge? See, you have to be very careful. Knowledge is not intelligence, intellect. Intellect work on information to derive knowledge. Knowledge is independent of intellect. One can be an intellectually superior person with no knowledge. One may have knowledge, but no intellectual ability to analyze it. So here, therefore, we asked the question to the teacher, what is this bodham that I must have? The teacher said, it's called Atma Bodham. It is about knowing yourself. To have clarity of purpose in life and to be happy ever, forever, the knowledge that you need is the knowledge of your true self. Now, this is something which we didn't bargain for. We thought we know ourselves. Then he said, what is this Atma? So we took this short 11, 12 classes on Vedanta introduction. And the question of Atma came in. Then we took a Prakarana Gandham called Tattvabodha. And we had some 32 sessions to tell you about what is Atma and what is Anatma, what is not Atma. So it raised a lot of questions. It talks about the body, mind, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha. So Vedanta basically made us to look at ourselves and see, who am I in this body? And this is not something which you asked for, but this is a new question that is asked. And there are new answers there. But the answers were not very clear to us. We may intellectually understanding it, but it doesn't resonate inside, doesn't really express ourselves in a true sense. So we struggled. Then the teacher said, well, this is the knowledge that you need to pursue, but your faculties of mind, which is the intellect and the buddhi and the mind, are not capable of pursuing it because it is full of mug. It's full of blemish in your mind, full of intellectual stagnation, viparita jnanam. So therefore, what you have to do, that you need to really cleanse your mind and come back. So that's why from Vedanta, we said, okay, I want to now take a break, go to the master Patanjali and tell him, look, cleanse my mind. We have two motives there. One, of course, we go back to Vedanta and understand the superior knowledge about the Atma. The other one is, we come to the realization, if mind can be purified, the mind can be repaired, mind can be cleansed, then before I go back to Vedanta, can I apply this pure mind in our local activities? Can I do my job better? Can I be a better person? Well, you can. Therefore, going to Patanjali is completely risk-free because the knowledge you get from Patanjali is going to help us in the worldly life to do what you do better. See, Atma Jnanam, see, experience is different from expression of power. You can experience it, you experience Atma Jnanam and you are a saintly person, Rishi, sit there, experience it. That's good for you. But the expression of that experience is creation. Some may have expressions, well, no experience. Some may have experiences, but no expression. Patanjali brings it, which you'll see later, called samyam, where your expression and experience bring it together. So we come to Patanjali. So we started with the introduction of Patanjali. What is Yoga Darshana? It is based on Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy takes everything in this universe of two things: a sentient part, a conscious principle, and unconscious principle, inert part, Purusha and Prakriti. So when this combined together, you have animated beings. Therefore, you can actually have a separation of these two. When you are not separating it, you have a mixture, You have a confusion. So Kapila stopped there. Patanjali said, okay, that's wonderful analysis, but it's of no value to the human beings. Therefore, they must have a method by which they are able to separate it. Separation is called Kaivalyam. The Purusha, the intelligent principle, the conscious principle, can look at everything else. In Vedantic parlance, the Atma and the Anatma. But Patanjali said, you cannot do that yourself, at least the early stages. So what you have to do, you need to have Ishvara. Who is this Ishvara? He's going to say that. So therefore, the Yoga Shastra started taking Sankhya Yoga and give a science by which you can actually apply certain tool sets, certain aids, certain practices to become that Purusha, or you attain the state of Kaivalyam. So that we saw. Then we saw the first chapter called Samadhi Pada. It's got 51 sutras. We've gone through them in an individual one. It took something like 28 classes. We've gone through them. In Samadhi Pada, Patanjali talked about the purpose of yoga is Samadhi. Then we took part 2. The Samadhi Padam is for Uttamadhikari, those who can actually have Vairagyam and Adiasana and all that. Like me, if you are, and then we are in the Madhyama or Atamadhikari. So we said, look, that's not good enough. The Patanjali started part 2 called Sadhana Pada. This is the methods by which you can practice yoga. It had 55 sutras. We saw in the last 18 classes what they are. In that, he comes to the conclusion that you need to follow the Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, as a practical method, of which he completed 5 of them. The 3 he did not do: Dhyana, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. There is a part 3 called Vibhuti Pada. The word Vibhuti means the power, glory, grace. Now, Vibhuti Yoga, we talk about it in Bhagavad Gita. So the power of yoga, the expressive power of yoga, the experience of yoga gives you a lot of glories. So that is in Vibhuti Pada. And this Vibhuti Pada is very closely related to the Samadhi or Samya, which is called a Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. That's the reason why he took this last 3, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, from the Sadhana Pada to Vibhuti Pada. The first 5 are external abhyasas, asanas, pranayamas, and everything. The other 3 are internal ones. The moment you get into the dhyana, you start getting vibhutis, getting powers. So the part 3 talks about the powers. And in that, Patanjali says, these powers are not important to you because, they distract you. Like, for example, you want to reach a particular place, you are going there. On the way, you see a pub. You go into the pub. And then you have a drink. Or you go to the casino, you play some games. So you distract you. It gives you more money, the casino. You get more power. With the money, you do something else. So your goal is just digressed, right? The Vibhuti does this kind of thing. It gives you lots of powers to you and take you away. So Patanjali says it's not important. So we are not going to study those things now. But we take those, I think I would say the first 8 of the sutras for the Vibhuti Yoga. The last one is a Kaivalya Pada. The Kaivalya Pada is about in yoga's parlance, the moksha. In a Sankhya doctrine, we don't need that because they are very different. They are being a Dvaitic in nature. The Kaivalyam in the Sankhya yoga philosophy is a state in which you exist indefinitely as one among the many, which is not sitting very well with the Vedanta. So we can ignore that. So our goal today is to take this few slokas of the Vibhuti Yoga Vibhuti-pada once completed. So what we did in the Samadhi-pada, if you remember, we asked the question, what is yoga? And Patanjali said, Atha Yoga Anusasana. This is the first sutra. Remember that? Atha Yoga Anusasana. Yoga Anusasana. Anusasana means a continuous instruction. Atha means after that. After what? After you have an interest to practice yoga, I am going to teach you, Patanjali says, yoga, which is Anusasana. Now, I repeat this again because the Anusasana got two meanings. First, yoga is not Patanjali's invention. Patanjali expressed it. Bhagavan expresses in Dhyana, in the Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavan says, it was there before. So yoga is there forever. The Anusasana. The other meaning is continuous asana. You need to follow it. That means you have to do it every day, every time. There is no end to yoga. You cannot say, I finish yoga, I become a yogi. You become a yogi, you become continue yoga, you become a yoga nishta. So it is a perpetual process until you attain the salvation. So it's the first one he said. Then he said, in this Shudra 2 to 4, yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So if you control your mind, regulate your mind, chitta vritti nirodha means not stopping the mind thoughtless, but to fill it up and direct it towards sattvic thoughts. When you do that, you get transformation. And the transformation makes you a better person. So he talked about it. So in the first 4 Shudras, he gave you the definition of what is yoga. Then he said, the reason you have to regulate it because it is irregular due to some blemishes. Vrittaya, panchatavya, klishta, aklishtaha. In Sutra 5, he said, you have 5 types of blemishes. These 5 types fall into 2 groups. Something which gives you grief and something doesn't give you grief. He did not mention what the 5s are. We learned it in the chapter 2 as a panchaklesha. And then he explained these blemishes that we should remove it. It went up to 11 Sutras. Then we asked them, okay, I understand the blemishes. How to clean these blemishes? Then he said, Abhyasa Vairagyam and Adiasana. He gave you 2 tools. You maintain your Vairagyam. Vairagyam is what? Dispassionate commitment, non-attachment, not combining emotional weight on the work you do. Like, when a judge is in a court, he is not related to anybody, either to the party A or party B, because he has to be dispassionate. But this dispassionate approach has to be there in our life. In every relationship, we must be dispassionate. If you're not dispassionate, love is blind, so you become very convoluted and you get entangled in a job, Now he assumed you are reasonably dispassionate person, and therefore he says, maintain it and practice it. If you practice this Vairagyam and practice this yogas continuously, you'll achieve chitta vritti nirodha. So he explained that in the 12 to 16. Then you ask the question, okay, suppose if I do all this and if I attain this state, what happens to me? He said in 5 sutras, you will attain Samadhi. The Samadhi is a state of mind. The state of mind is achieved through different progressive stages. Vitarka, Vicharananda, Asmita, Rupa, Anugamat. You see, what he meant by Samadhi here of twofold. First, When it is progressive step, which a progressive step means it is not the end, it's a sadhana. The samadhi becomes a sadhana. This sadhana, if you remember, he takes in the Ashtanga Yoga later. But here he also leads to the final stage of asampragnata samadhi, a state in which your mind is completely tranquil. Truth-bearing mind. What does truth-bearing mind means? Your mind, when it perceives something, and truthful to your heart, if you say what you see, what you express, it is a fact. What you see, hear, and express is a fact because you factored by your mind. For you, it is truth because your mind is factoring it. But that may not be the truth because you filtered it, you manipulated it. That's the reason why the same music is, the different feeling to two different people because they take it differently. The perceptions are different. So whenever your mind is taking something and projecting what it sees, it cannot be pure. But when mind has nothing to do, it just remains a wisdom, witness. And you see your awareness becomes the fact. It is the truth. That's a truth-bearing mind. When that mind is resting like this, it is called samadhi, asampragnata samadhi. So he started talking about that and we gone through in a great detail. At that time, we had a problem. Okay, this all sound very interesting, but I don't have the two qualities that Patanjali mentioned. What is that? The Vairagyam and Adiasana. I don't have Vairagyam because my mind is wandering. Abhyasam is not strong because my Shraddha is not strong. I do for 3 days, then I give up. Therefore, we asked the Guru, please, can you help me? Is there any other way or to boost this one? Here, I think we had a slightly different approach to many of those people, what they say. Many said, there is a different way than this. You don't need to have Abhyasam, Vairagyam. You can take Ishvara Pranidhanam. Just go to God. But we are taking what Vyasa says. No, it's not an option. It's not that either you do Abhyasa Vairagyam or God. Neither way, you don't improve anything, you don't promote anything. But you need to have Ishvara in this part of it. And Ishvara Pranidhana means bringing Ishvara into a life. When you have Ishvara into your life, anything you do, get the Ishvara's grace, your inability will go away. Your gaps will be addressed. Remember, Ishvara Pranidhanam has got two meanings, right? Ishvara Pradhanam, Ishvara Prasadam. Ishvara Pradhanam means anything I do, I am doing it, Ishvara, on your name. Whether I am eating, cooking, working, playing, anything I do in the name of God. Therefore, the work becomes worship. But you do, but you still have to do abhyasam. You need to do your kriya, you need to have a dispassionate approach to work. Now, because you do that way, the outcome, whatever comes out, because you have involved Ishvara, he is a very grateful personality, divinity. So if you involve him, he'll be involved in your results. Which means whatever comes to you as an outcome of your action becomes Ishvara Prasada. It may not be what you expected. It may be better, worse, pain, grief, doesn't matter. Because it's Ishvara Prasadam, my attitude to take will be different. Now, two things happen here. For example, when you are talking something, if a children comes in, you polish your words, right? Because you bring etiquette, because you don't want the children to know anything which is not right to know. So you self-correct depending on the involvement of the people around you. So when you involve God, naturally you become more auspicious, more pure. Therefore, your actions become right actions. Naturally, if you are thinking of God, you will not steal, you will not lie. So you see, the course correction happens when God involves, you choose right action. Now, the Ishvara Prasada means what comes to me, I'll accept it, means you don't have expectation at all. Therefore, you have right attitude to action. So what happened? Just bringing Ishvara into your daily life, your actions become, karmas become karma yoga. What Bhagavan is laboring in many, many chapters of Bhagavad Gita is what comes out of here. Just bringing Ishvara into life. So Patanjali did a monumental deviation from the Sankhya, bringing Ishvara into the picture. Bring Ishvara, things get started. So we got that. We were still doubtful. Okay, I got Ishvara in my picture. I'm going to do this abhyasam. But is there anything else which will stop me pursuing yoga? Then he said, yes, you're going to have a few more things. Like what? Vyadi, Dhyana, Samshaya, Pramada, Alasya, Viradi. You know, he listed 9 different things, you know, your diseases, your trembling hands, your laziness, your inertia, your viridajnanam, dukkham, daurmanasyam, ankame jayatva. You remember that? You keep on dancing when you are doing yoga, sitting there. So all these seshtas that you have, he enumerated to 9 plus 5, 14 of them. You remember the sutras. And when you read that one, you know that, yeah, it happens to me. I can't sit quietly. Diseases come. So he said, these are the obstacles to work. See, he is so compassionate. He is telling you what to do, how to do, what are the impediments that you will come across, so that you don't really shy away from this, you can still manage it. Then we asked them, right, I know it now. How do I overcome this? Then he said, very simple, singularly focus on it. Tat pradishedhartam ega tattva abhyasaka. Just on that, singularly focus. Then you improve. This is the most important sutra, which you never forget, in 33 sutras, where he said, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Ubekshana, Sugadukka, Punya, Punya, Vishayana, Bhavana, Chitta Prasada. Friendliness, compassion, encouragement, ignoring it. At what? Maitri, friendliness, when people are happy. People are happy and successful, be friendly with them. If you're friendly with them, friendly means love them. If you love them, you won't get envy on them. Because if my children are getting successful in life, I don't get envious because they are my children. So why can't I extend this? My friend, my mitra, my community. So by just being friendly to happy people, you don't have jealousy. Then compassion to people who are in trouble. No matter who they are, be compassionate. You can help, you help them out. But compassion is the expression that you have in your heart, which gives consolation, courage, encouragement to others. Then he said, Mudita. If anybody does right things in life, punya vishayam. So if somebody is doing charity work, when you look at them, you get encouraged, motivated. Don't get jealous again. No, he is doing it because he's got lots of money, or he's just flaunting it, his wealth. He's showing off. That is bad. But I get encouraged because he's doing good things. I want to do good things. And udasina. If somebody is doing wrong things, and if it is not your Vishesha Dharma to correct them, ignore them. Don't poke your nose. Don't unnecessarily create WhatsApp messages. That person did this way. All this is unnecessary because you have nothing to do. And if you have something to do, you do it. Don't just propagate this one. If you don't udasina, if you don't have it, your mind get boggled down. So he gave some value system like this. Okay, if you follow all this, I have the value system, I have the abhyasa vairagyam, ishvara pranidhanam. What happens to me? He said, you become vashikaraka, you get the supreme vairagyam, you get dispassionate. That means your mind is not, vashikaraka means your senses under your control. He has not told you how to do it. That is coming next chapter. Here he says, if you do all this, you achieve a state of vashikaraka, supreme vairagya, where nothing is polluting your mind. Therefore, mind naturally goes to Samadhi. These are different Samadhi status. When one attains Samadhi, the last one, Tasyabi Nirodhe, Sarva Nirodhe, Nirbija Samadhi. So you are in a Samadhi state, because Ishvara Pranidhanam is there, a particular state of Samadhi. A Bija Samadhi, Sabija Samadhi, or Samprajna Samadhi, the Samadhi where everything is shut off, senses are in your control, the object of contemplation that you are contemplating on fills your mind. Therefore, you and the mind object is there. If I am, for example, if I am doing Dhyana on Ishvara or Saraswati or anything, my mind is full of that object, and I know my mind is full of the object. See, that is Samprajna Samadhi. I exist, the object exists, nothing else exists. It is far superior than our Viksheba mind, our Shkipta mind. But it is still a duality. I exist, my object exists. Subject exists, object exists. That's all you can do. Nothing else we can do. But when you are there, by the grace of Atma, the subject just goes away. What are you contemplating becomes that. You become what you plan for, what you meditated upon. That's how we say that God becomes everything else, because God meditates to be that. So therefore, if you meditate and you become one with that what you're meditating upon, obviously if you meditate upon God, you become God. If you meditate upon a tiger, you become a tiger. This is what Patanjali says. But that state of thing, and also there is no bija, there's no samskaras anymore. So this is what chapter 1 gave us. Very high ideals to reach. Then we said, fine, but this is too much for me. I want a little bit more instruction, step-by-step guide. So he started sadhana pada. So we were waiting, because the first chapter he finished with the Dhyana, meditation is what needs to Samadhi. The second chapter, when you come, you say, give me that. You are expecting that he's going to give you, sit down this way and do the Dhyana. He didn't do that. What did he do? Tapasvatyaya, Ishvara Pranidhanani, Kriya Yoga. He starts the first one, you do Kriya Yoga. Just now we are studying Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. In the very first, if you remember, Anashtita Karma Palam Karyam Karma Karodi. Bhagavan starts there also. In Dhyana, it is a Dhyana Yoga. First one he starts on karma. For anyone who is doing karma as a karma yoga without expecting anything, he is Saha Sannyasi Yogi. He is a sannyasi, he is a yogi. Bhagavan doesn't differentiate yogi and sannyasi differently. Sannyasi doesn't mean you need to give up everything and go with a particular dress. If you are a yogi, you become a sannyasi. Nanir Agni Cha Agriya. You don't need to do any Agnihotrams and all this yajnas. You don't need to do any work. See, the reason I'm saying is Patanjali is expounding on what Bhagavan says. Karma Yoga is the first step. I came to purify my mind. but you asked me to do the action. Yes. You can't do that 15 minutes of dhyana in a day, in the 23 hours and more in a day, you spend something else. No, if I go around, create problems to others, pollute the atmosphere, have bad habits, bad things, then I come back to the puja room and sit as a dhyana for half an hour. It doesn't work. Your mind will not let you do this dhyana. So the 10 minutes of dhyana that you need requires the remaining hours of the day to be spent in karma yoga. You see, this is the relationship between karma yoga and upasana yoga and dhyana. The more you do karma yoga, you don't need to do dhyana for 2 hours, 10 hours. Of course, you can do. Even 10 minutes is good enough. The 10 minutes have to be an absolute dhyana. Your mind has to have settled down on karma yoga. Everything that you do in your life has to be in karma yoga. So Patanjali said the same thing. So we've gone through this karma yoga, kriya yoga in great detail. Then he taught about the panchaklesha. Remember the panchaklesha? So the panchaklesha is the one, avidya, asmita, ragadvesha, abhinivesha. So the 5 different afflictions, they go away. See, dhyana will not clear the blemish. Important to understand. To clear the mind's impurity, the one and only way is karma yoga, full stop. Which means karma yoga is not a parallel path to bhakti yoga or jnana yoga. No, karma yoga is the formidable first step. That's the reason why God can wait. You do your job correctly. That's the reason why, people say Western countries, they don't bring religiosity. Fine. But at least they do what you have to do, discipline, social order, dharma, karma. Because when your mind is focused on doing things correctly, that is God, that is worship. For that person, God will come. So there's no point in teaching children to say all the slogas, which is good, teach them slogas, but more important to teach them to do things perfectly, right things to do, the right way. So if you do that, Patanjali says, the natural, inherent, latent kleshas that you have, avidya, ragadvesha, abhinivesha. You remember all that? Avidya is ignorance. What is abhinivesha is the fear to die, holding on to something that you have, ragadvesha. Asmita, I am the one. So all this will go away. When you do karma yoga, when you do without any expectation, already your ego is gone. And you're going to accept anything means ragadvesham is gone. See? So he talked about that in 3 to 10. Then to overcome this, the residue of the everything after the Kriya Yoga, to completely master that, what I have to do? He said, Dhyana heyas Vatyaha. You have to do dhyanam. This is where Patanjali started moving towards a very practical approach. So he has built the whole scenarios. Now he says, I'm going to split into 3 things. Heyam, heya hetuhu, hanam, hanopai. How to, if there is a problem, you find the root of the problem, solve the problem. Okay. So to say that, he equated the afflictions effect. The afflictions that we're talking about, the avidya, ragadvesha, everything, it is leading to samsara. Samsara is, generally we say it is the birth and death cycle. The birth and death cycle is not samsara. It is how you live the embodied life is samsara. If you don't have control of how I'm going to be born, I'm in the samsara. Having born, if I do not know how to live, I'm in samsara. But if I live with the raga dvesha, I create samsara. Because everything I do creates a samskara. Samskara has to be spent. It's a bijam, a seed. If you take a seed and put in the earth, what happens? It sprouts back. Anything that you hide in your mind sprouts back. Any thought, any anger, any jealous, any aggression, any fear, even love, anything that you suppress in your heart will grow, germinate, sprout. But when it grows, it needs to express itself. It needs a body. So depending on what you put in your mind, you choose a body. See, you take control. You understand now? So what goes in there, not expressing yet, is samskara, bijam. That creates samsara. Now, if I want to remove this, it's not being born. I can come back again as a philosopher or a poet or a bird. If I want to come. That should not be my limiting. That's the freedom. But if I come on my control. I'm liberated, means I am mukta. For that, I need to go back to this samsara. Use the word sati mule. That vibhagu jatchit bhogaga. That samsara, the root, you have to go and destroy it. Okay, how do we take the root of samsara to be ineffective? He says, avidya is a reason. Very simple. There is some yogam happens. What is some yogam happens? That means when you do an action, because you are not doing karma yoga properly, you are not able to detach yourself from the action, and you are clouded by the affliction. Therefore, everything you do, you take ownership. If you take ownership, it is yours. You have to endure it. Therefore, if you want to unclutter this one, you have to start with the basis of it. The basis is the samyogam. The mixture of things that should not be mixed should be removed. And he gave two important concepts, drishyam and drik. This is Vedanta, but the seer and the seen confusion. How are you today? I am not at all well. Then you ask me, what happened? I say, my leg is hurting. I am not well. I said, it is me and not well. But when you ask me further, it is my leg that is hurting. It's like my shirt is dirty. My car is not working. My nephew is going somewhere. See, it is distant from me the moment I put my. But I use I and my, samyoga. So we've gone through in detail, and this samyoga has to be removed. And if you remove that, the liberated being will be, as in Sutra 27, Saptada Pranta Bhumi. He will attain 7 different bhumis. Rudam Prajnana, Jignyasa Nivritti, Jigisha Nivritti, all that we saw. Then we said, okay, I am on it. Give me the steps. I give you all the steps. No, give me specific step. Patanjali therefore takes us Manda Adhikari, the very ordinary people we are. Therefore, I had to specify to him, what do you say to the children? Don't do this, do this, sit there. It is not being rude to them, but it is telling them the minimum they need to know and do it. So he started giving Ashtanga Yoga. We saw the Ashtanga Yoga, 8-fold practice in Sutra 28 to 29. Then he started saying Yama, what is Niyama? 5 Yamas and 5 Niyamas. Remember what they are. Don't forget. And their importance. Then if you follow the Yama Niyama, what's the benefit? The Yama Niyama or universal principle, Mahavratams, you do all the time, all walks of your life. Karma Yoga, like Karma Yoga, Yama Niyama should be your natural qualities. You do that. Then you went to very specific. Well, now you go back to Dhyanam. To do the Dhyanam, you need to start preparing few things. Sit down first. Don't wander around. Sit down. Where do I sit? Siram Sukhamasana. comfortable place, comfortable posture, sit there. So we learn how to sit. Then now he says, breathe normally, breathe slowly, breathe deeply. And he starts talking about pranayama. He's got 4 types of pranayama. Rechakam, Purakam, Kumpakam, Kevala Kumpakam. We saw those things. But we will take it as if, as long as we do a deep breathing, we are achieving pranayama. So sit down, deep breathing. When you do that, you achieve certain benefits. The benefit leads to dharana. It kills your tamas and rajas in your mind. The senses get controlled. It is making you eligible to go to the dharana stage. Then you do pratyahara. Pratyahara means taking your senses under control. It's all 54 and 55. There he finished. So now 3 things are missing. Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So I'll try to finish them as quickly as possible. So for this, we need to go to the Vibhuti path. I told you the reason why he put those 3 into Vibhuti path, because the previous 5 are Bhagiranga sadhana. They are controlling. Pratyahara is, for example, senses control. Now you are able to control your body and senses so that you can sit and focus on the mind. What Patanjali says, once you come to this faculty of Antaranga sadhana, it is all one. Even though it's called Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, he's going to call them together into one word called Samyama. They are inseparable. See how. So Dharana is Desa Bandhas Chittasya Dharana. Very simple. Dharana means concentration. Desa Bandhasya Bandha Chittasya. Whatever you are going to meditate upon, that location, Desa means that location, that object of location of the object. Bandha, lock onto it. Concentrate, basically concentration. If I am meditating on Mount Kailash, for example, then the Mount Kailash, the pradimam or the location, whatever, that thought has to be locked up and concentrated. Now, what about if I want to do a concentration on some gambling, for example? It's also concentration. That we don't call dharana. So implicit, the deeper meaning is, we need to take a lot of times, but simply it means dharana here implies that what you are focusing on, the location of your focus is already auspicious. It is, so basically Ishvara. So I would say from now onwards, dharana, dhyana, samadhi is all about Ishvara, Atma, nothing else. So when you are focusing on that, concentrating on that, that's called dharana. Okay. What is dhyanam then? Tatra pratyaya eka tanata dhyanam. Tatra, there, where dharana sets in. So when I am focusing now on this God image in my mind, concentrating on it, I'm in dharana. Where dharana sets, pratyaya, thoughts comes. Yeah, thoughts, chitta vritti nirodhana, even if you do, thoughts have to come. They keep on coming, recurring all the time. What you do, ekathanata, you bring that only towards the object. That is dhyana. Very simple and beautiful definition. Dhyana means when you are sitting and focusing on what is given by dharana, thoughts come, but keep on bring the thoughts again and again and again to that same point. What is the implication of it? Thoughts come. You don't create thoughts. Thoughts come. What about if I'm thinking about Kailash, the thought comes to the the coach I went on, the driver I saw, the sheep I saw. All this thought comes. They will come naturally. So what do I have to do? When it comes, Ekatanata, bring it back to the Mount Kailash. Bring it back to what I want to do. Now, this battle is called Dhyana. So don't ever think I can't do Dhyana, because every time I sit for Dhyana, thoughts come in. They come. That's called Dhyana. But you fight to bring back to the Dharana. As long as Dharana is there, concentration is there, when the thought comes in, you bring your mind, contemplate, bring it back to this. This continuous battle is called Dhyana. It's called Vichitta. That's why, when you see Dhyana, people have this beats, Mind will keep on wandering. That's why, it's much easier to recite Vishnu Sahasranamam, the whole thing, than to just recite Om Namo Narayana. So don't do Om Namo Narayana 108 times. The third times, Narayana Vilas Hotel will come. Narayana, your friend, will come. But if you read the Vishnu Sahasranamam, maybe you may just go through it. Why? Because the mind needs variety. So Vishnu Sahasranamam is, when you're reading so many words, new thoughts, new things come. Mind is happy. You feel happy because you are going along with this. But you need to start developing slowly from Parayana to Japam. You take Parayana, then you do Nama Japam. So then you become Namah Shivaya or Narayana, whatever you want to say, Nama Japam. Then you come Pranava Japam. You remember in Tat Pranavasya, Bhagavan, Patanjali says, Ishvara Pranidanam, Ishvara is Pranava. Then you do Om, Omkara. Then even the Om will go away. See, so this is Dhyana. Dhyana means the battle of keeping the mind at Dharana stage. So you can now see Dhyana means nothing but Dharana, where you are fighting to focus Ekatanta, Tanata. Dhyana is the flow of thoughts recurring at the object of meditation. So there is no excuse to say, nobody can say, I completed Dhyana. Dhyana is always this ordeal of bringing together. What happens then? Tadeva arthamatra nirbhasham swarupa sunyam iva samadhi. Samadhi is what? Tadeva samadhi. Tadeva means that only. What is that now? What did we do before? Dhyana. Dhyana was tatra, dharanam. So dharanam becomes dhyana. Now tadeva, the dhyanam becomes samadhi. Tadeva samadhi. Finish. Sutra is finished. Dhyanam is samadhi. But when? Arthamatra. What is arthamatra? When you take anything, any object that you take, the three important factors are Shabda, Artha, Guna, or Vishaya. Computer is a Shabdam. Guna is what the computer's attributes are. Artha is its functionality. So when you say Ram, 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 the Shabda is Rama Shabda. Guna, you think of, when you think of a Pratimam, you say, it's long, 6 foot tall and, 6-pack tummy and then what that you? This is all attributes. But at some stage, Arthamatram. What is the meaning of Rama? Atma, Parabrahma, Ishvara Swarupa, Ishvara. That inexplicable Artham Matram, that alone remains, shines. Nirbhasha means shines. It is you stop saying Ram, 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 Ram. You stop. Words are not there. You're not sleeping. Because in your mind, the artham it is up to your evolution in your Atma Jnanam. So it fulfills, it shines. When you're shining that and shining like this, Swarupa Shunyam Iva. Iva means like. It is like as if your own identity is gone. Don't worry, you will not gone. You're not gone anywhere. But during the time, you are not there. You see, in that, you remember in a Samprajna Samadhi, I am there, my contemplation is there. My object is there, I am there. But here, I am not there. I am there. I am there physically. For others, I am there. But I lost time. I lost space. And somebody wakes me up and I say, what I was doing? Oh, I was in the Dhyana. What's the time now? Oh, 3 hours. Oh my God, I didn't realize. So, Swarupa Shunyamiva. That is Samadhi. So what happened is that you are being one with that. So Samadhi is a transition of Dhyana only at the stage when the object of contemplation alone shines in the mind. As if you don't exist. So this is the Samprajnata Samadhi. You exist slightly, little bit. Now you can see the Dharana becomes Dhyana and Dhyana becomes Samadhi. Therefore, Patanjali after this, everybody stops it here. This is where the Ashtanga Yoga finished. But I think you can take next 5 sutras to complete it. Here he says, Trayam Ekatra Samyama. Samyama is the word Patanjali uses to denote all these 3 together. He does not see it anymore as 3 different things. Unfortunately, this word is now being used in so many different ways and branded. You have some schools teach you 8 days Samyama yoga, $200 in the, I don't know. So Samyama, see, the Patanjali's words are very powerful. Words have got power. Don't underestimate words. For example, if I say, oh, Prakash, Ramesh, you are such a wonderful person. Ramesh is great, Ramesh is great. So Ramesh feels very happy. Or if somebody tells me, Raja, you are an evil person, you are a bad person, it hurts me. But these are just words, right? But they have an impact. So even the ordinary words that you and I use have effect. What about Rishi like Patanjali? See, every expression, every experience expands your power of expression. Expression is creation, right? When you express yourself, you express in your poetry, in your painting, in your conduct, in your cooking, and you experience bliss. But they are somehow seen as 2 different things, This experience is expression. They are not opposite. They are not dichotomies. They are basically synergy. These 2 dots can be drawn into a triangle. This is what the Sri Chakram is all about. Experience and expressions connected by your Atma. That all your experience become expressed. That means when you are a Karma Yogi and you are experiencing bliss in every action that you express, the bliss comes out. So here, same way, Patanjali uses the word. When Patanjali says Samyamaha, such a beautiful word, Samyamaha. Every word of Patanjali, when you use it, Paribhasha, when you use it, you get the potency of it. In original Sanskrit, in those words, I would say there are 200 words in the Patanjali Sutras. Pick up those words and indoctrinate yourself. So Samyama is what he talks in the rest of this part. He only talks about Samyama. And he says the use of Samyama, Tat Jayat Prajna Loka. You must abhyayam like this. Prajna Alokaha. Prajna Lokaha is wrong. Some do that way. Prajna Alokaha. Alokaha means shining. Tat Jayat. Here what is Tat means? That Samyama. If you have Samyama is achieved, what happens? Prajna, this prajna here is Sattva Buddhi. Go back to the Vedanta, what you discussed. Sattva Buddhi. Alone, avalokaha, shines alone. That means you are full of awareness. You are Chidananda Rupam. What does it mean? It means there is no factoring by mind. Mind has no role to play. You know, in Bhagavan Ramana was saying that somebody said, if it happens like this, what happens to my mind? It's worried. And Bhagavan just murmured, in Tamil he says, Manasinu onnu irukko. Is there something called mind? He can say it's his expression of experience. Mind just becomes a translucent space in which awareness comes in. That is samyama's power. Now, important now. That means there's no factoring. It's just a truth, right? There's no factoring. Factoring is the mind. It's just a truth. So when you have samyama and when you achieve this state, and suppose you express something, let there be rain, you say. What will happen? There will be rain. Why? Because truth comes out. Truth has to prove. So you become, see the power start expressing itself. So this is the indication. After this, after 15th Sutra, then he goes on to give you Ashtama Siddhis and all that, how it comes through from this. Just two more to finish it off. Then he says, how do I do the samyama? So he doesn't give you benefits individually for Dharana or Dhyana. Samyama benefit he gave you. How to do it? And again, he is very compassionate. He says, Tasya Blemishes Vinyogaga. Vinyogaga means you progress it. How? Blemishes. That means just starting from the ground, starting from the gross level. Don't read after reading this book for 2 times and going to the classes. Don't start Dhyana on a Pranayama mantra. Omkara Dhyana, we don't do that. You just can't do it. It's impossible to achieve it. Take the very gross part, simple stuff. Okay, I'm going to do the Gayatri Jayam today, Ganapati, Sri Rama Jayam today, Ramanama today, 108 times. Dhyana, bringing back, Egagram. So you do that, and slowly, Vinyogaga, increase your bhumi, increase your footing, higher and higher and higher and higher. Then what happens is, you don't need to close your eyes and sit down, because you are samyama will happen in you. In every action is a samyama. So when you take this samyama, trayam, antarankam, purvebhya. So therefore, all the other things, Ashtanga Yoga, what are the other things that we had? Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara. All these 5 are considered to be an external one when compared to samyama. So the samyama is more subtler, inward focus, antarankaha. Compared to what? Compared to this. This is the reason I think why Patanjali split this into 2 parts. The first 5 is in the sadhana pada. The last 3 together as samyama is in the vibhuti pada. Okay. The very last one to see. Tadhapi bahirangam nirbijasya. Okay, now then again he says, like now I told you samyama is antarangam. But if you pursue and achieve the nirbija samadhi, if you achieve that final state of samadhi, when you compare to the samadhi state in which you are there, even this samyama is external to you. See, what is internal and external? What is interior and exterior? Okay, so the best I would say is my skin is the boundary. Anything outside my skin can be external. But when I'm thinking about my mind, my body becomes external. But when I am controlling my mind becomes external to me. So the internal external is a myth, it's a mithya. Mithya is myth, myth is mithya. So if you keep on moving inside, what he says here, when you attain the state of Nirbija Samadhi, all that you did becomes external. That means you can discard them. That's the reason once, Ashtavagravan is there and he was not doing Sandhya Vandanas, he was sitting on a piece of rock on a temple tank. And all these Vedic scholars are doing the Sandhya Vandana and telling this, looking at him and say, look at this man, he's not doing Sandhya Vandana. Sin. But he says, look, where is Sandhya? Where is sun rising, sun setting? For him, it is, alokaka. So Prakasham is always there. Sun doesn't set, doesn't rise. Why should I do Sandhya Vandanam anymore? So everything becomes external, discarded. So that is how the Ashtanga Yoga is finished. And I think we have come to the end of it. So what we have done is we have finished 2 chapters. The 3rd chapter, we took the first 8 sutras. So if you're revising it, if you're writing a textbook or anything, you can take up to the 8 sutras in the chapter 3. And that completes Ashtanga Yoga. So with this, we complete Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate.
Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Hari Om Tatsat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raja.
No problem.
Thank you so much for a brilliant exposition of